Subscribe to LearnCap and hit the bell icon to get notified.
Friends, the next discussion is with regard to amendment in section 50. Friends, this is the most important amendment which has come, not only from examination point of view, but even from practical point of view. Friends, from the day on which GST has come in, there have been various amendments which have come. But I would say out of all these amendments which have come, this has been the most important amendment which has significantly impacted in a positive way. So friends, before we discuss and understand this amendment, let's have a look at the base structure of section 50. The structure of section 50, the title of which is interest on delayed payment of taxes. Every person who is liable to pay tax in accordance with the provisions of this act or rules, but fails to pay the tax or any part thereof to the government within the period prescribed, shall, for the period for which tax or any part thereof remains unpaid. Very, very important wordings. You need to by heart this. For the period for which tax or any part thereof remains unpaid, pay on his own interest at such rate not exceeding 18% as may be notified by the government. 50 subsection 1 tells you the interest rate will be as notified by the government. The maximum rate which can be notified is 18%, and naturally the government has notified the maximum rate. So the rate of interest for delayed payment of taxes is 18%. Friends, in this 50 subsection 1, the most important wordings are for the period for which tax or any part thereof remains unpaid, interest shall be payable. For the period for which tax or any part thereof remains unpaid, interest shall be payable. Fine. Only so much, but lot of analysis which is involved. Now friends, let's say tax period April. Outward supply value is 1 lakh, GST thereon is 18,000. Inward supply value is 60,000, GST thereon is 10,800. Due date of payment is 20th of May. Actual date of payment is 25th of May. Now friends, please understand, as regards as the current scenario is concerned, the GST portal is concerned, the due date of filing of return, or rather I would say it in this way, that you cannot make the payment of taxes without filing the return. You cannot make the payment of taxes without filing the return. That means only when you are filing the return you can make payment of taxes. Both of them are not independent. It is not so that you pay the taxes first independently and then you file the returns. This doesn't happen currently in the GST portal. In the GST portal, when you are filing the return, only when you are filing the return, payment of taxes happens. That brief understanding you need to have. That has got nothing to do with the amendment. It is a basic concept which you would have already studied in the chapter of payment of taxes. But you need to understand that concept thoroughly, that payment of taxes can happen only when you are filing the return. If you do not file the returns, you cannot pay the taxes. So friends, actual date of payment, that is I would say actual date of filing of returns, because only when you are going to file the return you can make payment of taxes, is 25th of May. Is there a delay? The answer is yes, there is a delay of 5 days. Now friends, should you pay interest? The answer is yes, you will have to pay interest. Now friends, the question is, there is no debate, there is no dispute as regards whether interest is payable or not, because interest is naturally payable. There is a delay. The question is, interest is payable on what amount? Friends, now the logical view would say, logically any person would say, output tax is 18,000, input tax available 10,800, 7,200 rupees is what this person is supposed to pay through his electronic cash ledger. 7,200 rupees is what this person is going to pay through his electronic cash ledger. Interest is payable on 7,200 rupees because the 7,200 rupees is being paid in a delayed manner. So the tax or any part thereof which remains unpaid, a logical view would be 7,200 rupees upon which interest is payable at the rate of 18% for 5 days. This would be the logical answer which you and I would have understood had we not read 50. Had we not read section 50, this would have been a spontaneous answer. But friends, let's have a close look at section 50. Section 50 tells you, for the period for which tax or any part thereof remains unpaid, for the period for which tax or any part thereof remains unpaid, interest is payable. Now friends, how much is the tax which you are supposed to discharge? How much is the tax which you are supposed to discharge? Are you supposed to discharge a tax of 18,000 or are you supposed to discharge a tax of 7,200 rupees? Friends, please understand, the tax which you are supposed to discharge is 18,000 rupees. The tax which you are supposed to discharge. Are you a taxable person? Yes. Have you made a supply? Yes. What is the value of supply which you have made? 1 lakh. What is the tax thereon? 18,000. What is the tax which you are supposed to discharge? 18,000 rupees. You are supposed to discharge a tax of 18,000 rupees. The only difference is this 18,000 rupees which you are supposed to discharge, through your electronic credit ledger, you will be discharging 10,800. Through your electronic cash ledger, you will be discharging 7,200 rupees. This doesn't, just because that you are discharging 7,200 rupees through your electronic cash ledger, doesn't remove away the fact or does not change the fact that your tax liability is 7,200 only. Your tax liability is 18,000 rupees. That 18,000 rupees, you want to discharge 10,800 through credit ledger, 7,200 through cash ledger. So now friends, please understand, for the period for which tax or any part thereof remains unpaid. Now friends, for this period of 5 days, how much of tax is remaining unpaid? Is it 18,000 that is remaining unpaid or is it 7,200 rupees that is remaining unpaid? Let's have a look at the provisions. 18,000 rupees you are supposed to discharge. This would get recorded in the electronic liability ledger. There are 3 ledgers: electronic liability ledger, electronic credit ledger, electronic cash ledger. Liability ledger would create liabilities. That liability would be discharged either from cash ledger or from credit ledger. Now friends, this 18,000 rupees would get recorded in the electronic liability ledger. Section 49, all liabilities of a taxable person under this act shall be recorded and maintained in electronic liability register. Agreed. Rule number 85. Rule number 85, subject to the provisions of 49, 49A, 49B, the sequence of utilization of credit, payment of every liability by a registered person as per his return shall be made by debiting electronic credit ledger or electronic cash ledger. Friends, the liability ledger can be discharged. The liability ledger can be discharged either through electronic credit ledger or through electronic cash ledger. Are we clear so far? Yes. Now friends, interest on delayed payment of taxes, what we have seen, what we are going to see, please understand in mind that the liabilities are created in electronic liability ledger. Electronic liability ledger's liability can be discharged either by debiting your electronic credit ledger or debiting your electronic cash ledger. Now friends, at the back end, or let's say how the ledgers are functioning. Now friends, in the example what we have seen, how much is my output tax liability? My output tax liability is 18,000 rupees. So friends, here in my electronic liability register, in the electronic liability ledger, I have created a liability to the extent of 18,000 rupees. I have created a liability to the extent of 18,000 rupees. Now friends, in my electronic credit ledger, in the example what we are seeing, there is a credit of 10,800 rupees which I want to take. But friends, please remember section 16. When can I take the credit? I can take the credit only when I am filing the returns. I can take the credit. In section 16, you have conditions for availing the credit. Section 16, subsection 2, clause D tells you that only when a registered person files his return, he will be in a position to take the credit, because only when you file the return, in the return you say 10,800 rupees is my credit, only then that amount of 10,800 rupees would go and sit in your electronic credit ledger. What is meant by availment of credit? Availment of credit is not just by you receiving the goods, received the invoice. It doesn't mean you have availed the credit. You are entitled to avail the credit. Have you availed the credit? No. Does availment of credit mean making an entry in your books of accounts? Answer is no. What is meant by availment of credit? Availment of credit is when you file the return and the amount goes and sits in your electronic credit ledger. That point is called as availment of credit. So friends, how does availment of credit happen? It happens when the returns are being filed. Without you filing the returns, how will the amount go and sit in your electronic credit ledger directly from your invoice? Your supplier might have uploaded as GSTR 1. It might come in your GSTR 2A. You can view it. Is it sitting in your electronic credit ledger? The answer is no. GSTR 2A is not your electronic credit ledger. Only that amount when you're punching in the return, only then it will go and sit in your electronic credit ledger. So now friends, in this example, when he's filing the returns, he would say 10,800 is the credit which I want to take. So when he files the returns, his electronic credit ledger, the moment he files it, both filing of returns and availing the credit will happen simultaneously. 10,800 rupees would come in his electronic credit ledger. Now friends, he knows that his electronic credit ledger is not sufficient to discharge the liability. So therefore, in his electronic cash ledger, he makes a deposit of 7,200 rupees. He creates a challan, deposits it in his electronic cash ledger to the extent of 7,200 rupees. Now friends, he tells, my liability is 18,000 rupees. 10,800 rupees, you take it from my electronic credit ledger. So this liability of 18,000 from credit ledger, 10,800 rupees comes. 7,200 rupees, you take it from my electronic cash ledger. So electronic cash ledger, 7,200 rupees comes. All this, when does it happen? When he is filing the returns. When he is filing the returns, he is offsetting the liability from his cash ledger and credit ledger. All this procedure what we are discussing is happening when the returns are being filed. So now friends, this liability of 18,000 rupees is discharged from his credit ledger 10,800, from his cash ledger 7,200 rupees. The liability stands discharged. When is this happening? All of this is happening on 25th of May when he is filing the return. Please understand friends, on 25th of May when he is filing the returns, he is availing the credit and also is utilizing the credit for the purpose of payment of taxes. Availment also is happening when he is filing the returns. Utilization also is happening when he is filing the returns. So now friends, in this case, on 25th when he is filing the returns, he is discharging his liability through electronic credit ledger and also through electronic cash ledger. Now friends, please tell me, in the example what we are seeing, output tax 18,000, input tax which is available in the invoice 10,800 which is eligible and is entitled to take. Due date for payment 20th of May. Actual date of payment, which is the date on which is filing the returns, is 25th of May. Now friends, please tell me, interest would be on 18,000 rupees or is it going to be on 10,800 rupees? Please understand, what is the tax liability which he is supposed to pay? He is supposed to pay a tax liability of 18,000 rupees. How is he paying? He is paying 10,800 rupees through his credit ledger and 7,200 rupees through his cash ledger. He will debit his electronic credit ledger to the extent of 10,800. He will debit his electronic cash ledger to the extent of 7,200 and he would discharge his liability. So now friends, please read the sentence again. For the period for which tax or any part thereof remains unpaid. What is the period for which the tax or any part is remaining unpaid? It is 5 days. But what is the tax which is remaining unpaid? The tax which is remaining unpaid is 18,000 rupees and not 7,200 rupees, because friends, this is his tax liability which is supposed to discharge. It is just a matter of fact that 10,800 is discharging through credit ledger, 7,200 is discharging through cash ledger. Using credit for payment of output tax liability is also a mode of discharge of liability. Is there a delay in the mode of discharge of liability? The answer is yes. Is the delay only for 7,200 or is the delay for the entire 18,000 rupees? The delay is for entire 18,000 rupees because only on 25th his electronic credit ledger will be debited for the purpose of payment of liability. So for the period of 5 days, there is a delay for the payment of tax of entire 18,000 rupees. So friends, this is what section 50 subsection 1 tells you. Now friends, the question is, industry naturally will not be happy with this, because friends, please think from logical point of view. Interest is always compensatory in nature. Please think from practical, a businessman's perspective. Interest is always compensatory in nature, which means that wherever there is loss of time value of money to the government needs to be compensated. Wherever there is loss of time value of money to the government needs to be compensated. Now friends, the loss of time value of money to the government is with extent to 18,000 or is with respect to 7,200 only? Friends, please understand, only the amount which I am going to pay through my electronic cash ledger from my bank account, it would be transferred to the government's bank account. The amount which I am paying using my electronic credit ledger, it is a mere book entry. It is a mere book entry between my electronic credit ledger and electronic liability ledger with no loss of interest to the government. From my credit ledger, 10,800 would go. It doesn't mean 10,800 would come to the government's bank account. When 10,800 rupees is really not coming to the government's bank account, even on 25th, why should I pay interest on 10,800 rupees? I should pay interest only on 7,200 rupees. Because only to this extent of 7,200 rupees, the amount is going from my bank account to the government's bank account. The loss of interest, or I would say the time value of money which is lost to the government, is only to the extent of 7,200 rupees. This would be a logical view which can be taken. So friends, the industry's contention was, when interest is compensatory in nature, for mere book entry, why are you harassing the assessees to pay taxes? Or why are you harassing the assessees to pay interest on mere book entries? Point number 2. Point number 2, the industry argued, had you given me an option to avail the credit, and also to pay the taxes independent of me filing the returns, I would have paid the 10,800 rupees taxes on 20th itself. Please understand, the industry is arguing that you should have given me an option to take the credit of 10,800 rupees independent of filing the returns. I would have taken, see now, this person tells there is a delay of 5 days because I did not have money. I did not have 7,200 rupees money to discharge the taxes. But 10,800 rupees I could have very well discharged because I did not have to infuse any funds. It is my credit, I just need to pass a book entry, avail the credit in the credit ledger and discharge it. You should have given me an option, the industry is arguing, you should have given me an option to avail the credit independent of filing the returns and to discharge partial liability independent of filing the returns. What I would have done, on 20th, I would have taken the credit of 10,800, discharged the liability of my 10,800. When I am having money on 25th, I would have deposited additional 7,200 rupees, filed the returns. In the return filing, I would have told 20th, 10,800 is already discharged. Today I am depositing 7,200 rupees. I am discharging this. My entire liability of 18,000 is discharged. 10,800 I discharge on 20th itself. 7,200 rupees I am discharging now. For this 7,200 rupees liability which I am discharging now, I am ready to pay you interest. You did not give me an option. For your incapability of giving me an option, how can you charge interest? So these were the two grounds on which the assessee argued that interest will not come on 18,000 rupees. Interest should and will come only on 7,200 rupees. Now friends, with respect to this, there were various contrary judgments which came from different high courts, wherein one of the high court told that interest would be on gross liability, which is 18,000 rupees. Another high court told that interest would be on net liability, which is 7,200 rupees. That part of the liability which is being paid through the cash ledger, that is 7,200 rupees, because it is a mere book entry to the extent of 10,800 rupees. Logically, interest should not be charged. And also, it was not, also the portal, the GST portal was not capable to allow discharging partial taxes before filing the returns. Had the portal allowed this, very well, the businessman would have already discharged 10,800 rupees of taxes. So friends, there was a discussion in GST Council where the GST Council ultimately decided that yes, interest will have to come only on net liability and not on gross liability. So now friends, with regard to this recommendation of GST Council, there is a proviso which is being inserted. There is a proviso which is being inserted to 50 subsection 1, and it is retrospectively effective from 1st of July 2017. The date on which GST came into force, this proviso has been inserted with retrospective effect, which tells you that interest is going to be on that portion of liability which is discharged through electronic cash ledger. Friends, please understand, although this proviso looks simple, there are various ifs and buts, various permutations and combinations which we are going to see. Please have a careful attention on this. For now, just read the wordings which I have highlighted, which are underlined and bold. So it tells you friends, the proviso to 50 subsection 1, provided that the interest shall be levied on that portion of the tax that is paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger. Please leave this story for now. I will take you through this little later on. The proviso tells you, provided that the interest shall be levied on that portion of the tax that is paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger. Please understand friends, 50 subsection 1, it tells you interest shall be paid, the tax or any part thereof which remains unpaid. Please understand, the tax or any part thereof which remains unpaid, for that particular period interest shall be paid. Proviso to 50 subsection 1 tells you that interest shall be paid only on that portion of the tax which is paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger. So in simple terms friends, if you are covered by the proviso, you need to pay interest only on that portion of liability which is discharged through electronic cash ledger. If you are not covered by the proviso, why am I saying if you are not covered by the proviso? Because there are certain conditions which we are going to see. If you are not covered by the proviso, which means you are covered by the basic body of 50 subsection 1, which means that for the entire tax which is remaining unpaid, interest will be payable. I repeat, if you are covered by 50 subsection 1, for the entire tax which is remaining unpaid, interest shall be payable. If you are covered by the proviso to 50 subsection 1, interest shall be payable only on that portion of the tax which is payable or which is paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger. So to conclude, if you are covered under 50 subsection 1, interest is on the gross liability, which means that portion of tax or that tax which is remaining unpaid. If you are covered by the proviso, interest shall be payable only on that component which is paid through electronic cash ledger. So now friends, let's take an example. The same example we shall continue. Output liability is 18,000, input tax credit 10,800, due date of payment 20th, actual date of payment 25th. Is there a delay? The answer is yes, there is a delay of 5 days. Now friends, ignoring the conditions, assuming we are covered by the proviso. The proviso tells you interest shall be levied on that portion of the tax that is paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger. So friends, the amount which is paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger is 7,200. So interest is going to be on 7,200 multiplied by 18% multiplied by 5 divided by 365. This is the amount of interest which needs to be discharged. So friends, the crux is, if you are covered by 50 subsection 1, interest is on the entire amount of tax which is remaining unpaid. If you are covered by the proviso, interest is only on that portion of the tax which you are going to pay through electronic cash ledger. Let's take another example. Let's say outward supply is 10,800. Inward supply is 18,000 rupees. The reverse. Outward supply, output tax is 10,800. Output tax is 10,800. Input tax is 18,000 rupees. Now friends, here interest on, is there a delay? The answer is yes, there is a delay of 5 days. Is there any amount which you are going to discharge using your electronic cash ledger? Friends, here the output tax is 10,800, input tax credit is 18,000. You will be having a credit carry forward of 7,200 rupees. So therefore, you are not going to deposit any amount in your electronic cash ledger to discharge the liability of tax period April. So therefore, interest, it is not applicable because there is no, assuming you are covered by the proviso. Assuming you are covered by the proviso, you are satisfying these conditions which are there. Assuming in that case, interest is going to be paid only on that portion which is discharged through electronic cash ledger. In our example, nothing is discharged from electronic cash ledger, so interest liability is 0. Let's take another example. Output tax is 10,800 rupees. Input tax credit 18,000 under forward charge mechanism, which means your supplier supplied you goods or services. In that invoice, taxes were charged. The supplier collected it from you. You can take input tax credit. However, you have certain inward supplies to the extent of 10,000 rupees. Of certain inward supplies to the extent of 10,000 rupees, upon which GST is 1,800 rupees. But this GST 1,800 rupees is going to be paid under reverse charge mechanism. These are the facts. The due date of payment is 20th of May. Actual date of payment is 25th of May. Now friends, what is the output tax? Output tax is 10,800 rupees. What is the input tax credit? It is 18,000 rupees. 7,200 is carry forward. And friends, again, you got a reverse charge liability to the extent of 1,800 rupees. Please understand, reverse charge liability cannot be discharged using your credit ledger. You have to deposit the amount in your cash ledger and you have to discharge the reverse charge liability using your electronic cash ledger. So friends, this 1,800 rupees reverse charge liability, you discharge it using your electronic cash ledger, and thereafter can you take the credit? The answer is yes, you can take the credit. So you take the credit of 1,800 rupees. Your total credit carry forward happens to be 9,000 rupees. The total credit carry forward happens to be 9,000 rupees. This 1,800 rupees reverse charge liability you have discharged through electronic cash ledger, and thereafter you have taken the credit. Is there a delay in payment of this 1,800 rupees? Yes, there is a delay of 5 days. Is there going to be any interest? The answer is yes. Please understand, 1,800 rupees your reverse charge liability you have discharged using your electronic cash ledger. Even though there is a credit carry forward of 9,000 rupees, still there is going to be an interest in this particular example because there is a delay in payment of reverse charge liability. Reverse charge liability is paid only through electronic cash ledger. So friends, in this case, provided that the interest shall be levied on that portion of the tax which is paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger. So interest is going to be payable on 1,800 rupees. I am sure you are able to follow this. Next example friends, tax period is April. Due date is 20th of May. Return is filed on 18th of May itself, which means the return is filed before due date. Let's have a look at the figures. Outward supply, actual value is 60,000 rupees. GST thereon is 10,800. But the value which is declared in the returns due to some error, due to some clerical error or error due to oversight, for XYZ reason, the outward supply which is declared in the returns for the tax period April is 50,000 rupees. GST thereon is 9,000 rupees. So actual output tax 10,800, declared output tax in the returns 9,000 rupees. Inward supply, actual value is 1 lakh, 18,000 GST, declared value is 1 lakh, 18,000 is GST. For the tax period May, due date is 20th of June, return is filed on 18th of June itself, filed well in advance. Outward supply, actual is 1 lakh, GST thereon 18,000 rupees. Now friends, when you are going to file the returns for the month of May, the error which happened in the month of April comes to your notice. It comes to your notice that outward supply to the extent of 10,000 rupees pertaining to tax period April was omitted to be declared in the return of April. So therefore, while filing the returns for the month of May, you want to declare it in the monthly returns of May. So friends, what is the declared in the monthly returns of May? May's outward supply is 1 lakh, tax thereon is 18,000. Missed out outward supply which was missed to be declared in the tax period April, 10,000, GST thereon 1,800. Inward supply 14,400 is input tax, actual the same is declared. Now friends, let's compute. Let's compute return for the month of April. How much is output which has gone in the return? Output which has gone in the return is 9,000. How much is the input tax credit which has gone in the return? 18,000 rupees. 9,000 rupees is carry forward of credit. 9,000 rupees is carry forward of credit for the month of April. For the month of May, how much is output? Output is 18,000 of May. April's liability also you're discharging or also you're reporting it in the monthly return of May. So the liability becomes 18,000 plus 1,800 rupees, which is 19,800 rupees. Input tax credit 14,400 rupees plus 9,000 rupees is carry forward of credit which is coming from the preceding month. This 9,000 rupees carry forward of credit coming from the preceding month. So now friends, how much are you supposed to pay? 19,800 minus 14,400 and minus 9,000 rupees. So you have 3,600 rupees as credit carry forward. Let me just recheck it. 19,800 minus 14,400 minus 9,000. Yes. So you have a credit carry forward of 3,600 rupees. Are we clear so far? Yes. Now friends, please tell me, seeing the months April and May together, did you discharge anything from your electronic cash ledger? For the month of April, did you discharge anything from your cash ledger? No. For the month of May, did you discharge anything from your cash ledger? The answer is again no. So now friends, whether interest, is there any interest liability which is going to come? Is there any interest liability which is going to come? So far, whatever the proviso which we have read, the answer would have been no. But now friends, please read the wordings which are underlined and also along with the wordings which are highlighted in red. The proviso 250 subsection 1 provided that the interest on the tax payable in respect of supplies which are made during a tax period and declared in the return for the said period, interest shall be levied on that portion of the tax that is paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger. Here comes the condition. Condition number 1. If you want to avail the benefit of payment of interest only on that portion which you are discharging through your electronic cash ledger, then the supplies which are made during a tax period should be declared in the return for the said tax period. In our example, the supplies which are made during April to the extent of this 10,000 rupees. Out of 60,000, 50,000 is reported. To the extent of 10,000 rupees, the supply which is made during the April, is it declared in the return for the tax period April? The answer is no. It is declared in the returns for the tax period May. So friends, now the supplies which are made during a tax period, is it declared in the return for the said period? The answer is no. So now friends, since you are not satisfying the condition, please read it wholesomely. Provided that the interest on tax payable in respect of supplies made during a tax period and declared in the return for the said period, interest shall be levied on that portion which is discharged using the cash ledger. This condition is not being satisfied. So friends, when this condition is not being satisfied, proviso is not applicable to you. So when proviso is not applicable to you, you go back to the main body 50 subsection 1. Main body 50 subsection 1 tells you, please read it. Main body 50 subsection 1 tells you the tax or any part thereof which remains unpaid, interest needs to be paid. Tax or any part thereof which remains unpaid, interest needs to be paid for the period for which it is remaining unpaid. Now friends, in this example what we have seen, is there any tax which is remaining unpaid? The answer is yes. There is a tax to the extent of 1,800 rupees which is remaining unpaid. Because this tax of 1,800 rupees, that is unreported supplies to the extent of 10,000, tax thereon which is 1,800 should have been paid while filing the monthly returns for the month of April itself. It should have paid on 20th of May. But is it being paid on that date? The answer is no. It is being paid only when the monthly returns of May are being filed. It is paid on 18th of June. So from 21st of May, the due date on which it should have been paid, till 18th of June, Till this period, the tax is remaining unpaid to the extent of 1800 rupees. The tax is remaining unpaid to the extent of 1800 rupees. For this, interest needs to be paid because you are not covered by the proviso. Only if you are covered by the proviso, interest will be paid on that portion which is discharged using the cash ledger. If you are not covered by the proviso, interest will be according to the main body 50 subsection 1, which tells you that the period for which tax or any part remains unpaid, interest is payable. It doesn't matter whether you are going to pay this from your credit ledger or cash ledger. Is it unpaid? Yes, pay interest, close the matter. Are we clear? So friends, now the section is very, very clear. You cannot take a logical view. You cannot say, look boss, had I reported this correctly in the monthly return of April itself, still at the end of May, I would have had a credit carry forward of 3600 only. Please understand what would have happened had I reported it correctly. Now in this friends, 9000 rupees would not have been my credit carry forward. Rather it would have been 9000 rupees minus 1800 rupees. My credit carry forward would have been 7200 rupees because I would have already discharged 1800 rupees itself in the month of April returns itself. 7200 rupees would have been my credit ledger carry forward. Agreed. 7200 rupees is my credit ledger carry forward. Current month credit is 14,400. 21,600 is my total credit. 19,800 rupees is my output tax liability. I would have got further, 18,000 rupees would have been my output tax liability. I repeat, 7,200 rupees would have been my credit ledger carry forward. Agreed? Yes. What is the input tax credit for the month of May? It is 14,400. So 7,200 plus 14,400, 21,600 credit I am having. How much is my output tax which I am supposed to discharge? It is not 19,800 because 1,800 I already discharged it earlier. May months is only 18,000 minus 18,000 rupees. Still I would have got credit ledger carry forward of 3,600. It doesn't matter. Financially doesn't matter to the government. Either I report it in April or I report it in May. End of May, 3,600 is my credit ledger carry forward. I have paid nothing from my cash ledger. Why charge interest? Friends, section is very, very clear. You have to abide by the section. It tells you nothing doing. There is no loss of interest to the government. There is no loss of time value of money to the government. Everything agreed. Section prevails. You are not covered by the proviso. You are covered by 50 subsection 1. The tax which is remaining unpaid, during the period for which it is remaining unpaid, kindly pay interest. That tax later on you are discharging through credit ledger, through cash ledger, that is your headache. I want interest for this 1,800 rupees which is remaining unpaid during this period. Are we clear friends? So this is the proviso as it stands. Please understand 50 subsection 1 main body. I repeat this, you will have to memorize this. 50 subsection 1 main body. For the period during which tax is remaining unpaid, interest will be payable. Proviso, interest payable only on that portion which is discharged using cash ledger. Using the cash ledger. Proviso is conditional? Yes. What is the condition? The condition is supplies made during a tax period should be declared in the return for the said period. So friends, you as professionals, you should understand that filing the returns within time is not that important. Filing the returns correctly is important. You might file the returns within time, but if you miss out some liability, even though you might have filed within time, never mind. If you miss out some liability and report it in the next period, interest would be payable on the gross amount, even though you might have electronic credit ledger sufficient balance. Rather, had you filed the returns belatedly but correctly, you need not pay any interest. Another example, friends. This example is nothing new. It is just to further enhance your understanding of proviso to 50 subsection 1. Outward supply 60,000, GST there on 10,800. Value which is declared in the returns 50,000, GST there on 9,000. Inward supply 18,000 input tax credit, value of 1 lakh. What is declared is 18,000, value of 1 lakh. For the tax period May, I repeat, for the tax period May, actual value is 1 lakh, 18,000 is output tax. Declared value 1 lakh is declared of May, 10,000 is declared of April. Inward supply 80,000, 14,400, declared 80,000, 14,400. You might wonder, is the same example not repeated again? The same figures were there? The answer is no. There is a slight change over here. Change is April month's return, it is filed on 18th of May, same as last example. However, the returns for the month of May, which is actually due on 20th of June, is filed on 28th of June. There is a delay in filing the returns for the month of May. There is a delay to the extent of 8 days. Let's compute. So friends, how much is output? Declared in the returns is 9,000. Input 18,000 rupees. Credit ledger carry forward 9,000 rupees. Actually, had they reported it correctly, it should have been 7,200 rupees. 10,000 is not being reported. For the month of May, output 18,000 plus 1,800. He is declaring the earlier missed out liability in the monthly returns for May, 19,800. Input tax credit 14,400 current month, 9,000 rupees credit ledger carry forward of the preceding month. So now friends, what is the balance? Same 3,600 rupees is going to get carried forward. Same 3,600 rupees is going to get carried forward. Is there any interest payable? Is there any interest payable? Question number 1 for the tax period April. Question number 2 for the tax period May. Now friends, as regards as question number 1 for the tax period April is concerned, so the tax period April is concerned, is there any tax which is remaining unpaid? The answer is yes. Tax is remaining unpaid to the extent of 1,800 rupees. Fine. Are you covered by the proviso? To that you have to ask the question. Is the tax period's liability declared in the return for the same tax period? The liability pertaining to April, is it declared in the returns of April itself? The answer is no. So therefore, to the extent of this 1,800 rupees, interest shall be payable for the delay in payment of taxes. Question number 2. Is there any delay in paying the tax liability of the month May? The answer is yes. There is a delay. There is a delay to the extent of 8 days. For what liability? Out of 19,800, 1,800 I have already computed separately for the month of April interest paid or interest payable. 18,000 rupees is pertaining to the month of May. For the month of May, is there any delay? The answer is yes, there are delay. But now the next question which you are going to ask, whether proviso is applicable. Friends, for the proviso to apply, the liability pertaining to a tax period should be declared in the returns of the same tax period. The liability pertaining to May to the extent of 18,000 rupees is declared in the tax period's return of May itself, 18,000 rupees. Now friends, will you get the benefit of proviso? The answer is yes, you will get the benefit of proviso. The liability of May is 18,000, declared in the monthly return of May, 18,000 rupees. You will get the benefit of proviso. Interest needs to be paid only on that portion which is discharged using the cash ledger for the tax period May. Is there any liability which is discharged using the cash ledger? The answer is no. So therefore friends, for the tax period May, even though you have filed the returns belatedly, still there is no interest. For the tax period April, even though you have filed the returns within time, there is interest. End of the day, the credit ledger balance, even though remains 3,600 rupees, still for the tax period April, you will have to pay interest. So friends, this is the reason. The reason why we have taken this example is because it is very important to file correct returns rather than to file the returns in a hurried manner. Now if you look for the month of May, it doesn't mean I'm encouraging belated return filing, but I'm just saying that you need to be very cautious about the proviso. The proviso tells you the liability pertaining to a tax period should be declared in the return of the same tax period. So friends, the proviso, so far what we have seen, interest will be paid only on the cash component if the liabilities pertaining to a period are declared in the return for the said period. So now friends, this is the summary what we have seen so far. 50 subsection 1, interest on gross liability. Whatever is the tax which is remaining unpaid, interest needs to be paid. Irrespective of the fact this tax you are discharging from credit ledger, cash ledger, not bothered. Pay interest. If you are covered by the proviso, interest is going to be a net liability, that is payment through cash ledger, but if supplies made during a tax period are declared in the return of the same tax period. Next example friends, for the tax period April, The due date happens to be 20th of May. The due date happens to be 20th of May. This person did not file his returns till August. This person did not file his returns for the tax period April till the month of August. 25th of August, he receives a show cause notice. 28th of August, he files the returns for the tax period April. Outward supply is 10,800, inward supply is 18,000 rupees. Now friends, what is going to be the computation? My output tax 10,800 rupees, input tax credit 18,000 rupees. 7,200 rupees is credit ledger carry forward. 7,200 rupees is my electronic credit ledger carry forward. Is there a delay in payment of taxes? The answer is yes. There is a considerable delay in payment of taxes. I should have paid on 20th of May. I am paying it on 28th of August. Is there any amount which I have discharged through my cash ledger? The answer is no. Should I pay any interest? Please read the proviso. Read the black lines along with the red wordings which are there. Interest on the tax payable in respect of supplies made during a period and declared in the return for the said period furnished after the due date. In this case, supplies made during the month of April. Are they declared in the monthly return of April itself? Yes. Supplies which are made during the tax period April, they are declared in the monthly return of April itself, which is filed on 25th of August. But it is filed in the monthly return of April. Are you satisfying this? Yes. Except where such return is furnished after commencement of any proceedings under 73 or 74. Except where such return is furnished after commencement of any proceedings under 73, 74. This is an exception to an exception. Proviso itself is an exception to the main body. Exception to this exception will again go into the main body. Which means that if you are furnishing, even though you are declaring the liabilities pertaining to a tax period in the return of the said period only, but still if you are filing these returns after commencement of proceedings under 73, 74, you will not get the benefit of proviso. Except where such return is furnished after commencement of proceedings under 73, 74, benefit of proviso will not be available. So friends, in this case, you go back to the main body. Main body tells you tax which is remaining unpaid, for the period during which it is remaining unpaid, pay interest. What is the tax which is remaining unpaid? Tax which is remaining unpaid is 10,800 rupees. Is there a delay in discharging this tax of 10,800 rupees? Yes. I don't bother. This liability you are discharging through credit ledger, cash ledger, nothing doing. Is there a delay? 50 subsection 1 tells you, is there a delay in payment of taxes? Yes. For the delay, pay the interest. If you are not covered by the proviso, you come to the main body. If there is a delay, yes, pay the interest on the delayed payment of taxes, irrespective of the fact whether you are going to discharge through credit ledger or you are going to discharge through cash ledger. So now friends, in this case, interest is payable. So friends, by this we have covered the entire 50 subsection 1 read along with the proviso. The simple summary is only so much. Interest for delayed payment in taxes. 50 subsection 1, the main body tells you if there is a delay in payment of taxes, irrespective of the fact you are going to discharge through this tax through credit ledger or cash ledger, I don't matter. It doesn't matter to me. If there is a delay, you pay the interest for the period during which there is a delay. Proviso tells you, proviso an exception. Proviso tells you that if the supplies which are made during a period are declared in the return of the said period and the return is filed before initiation of proceedings under 73 and 74, then I will give you a concession in interest. Interest can be paid only on that portion of tax liability which is discharged using the electronic cash ledger. I am sure by now you are thorough. You would have indirectly by-hearted the proviso to 50 subsection 1. So friends, this is all about the proviso to 50 subsection 1. This is the amendment which has come. The last 40 or 45 minutes which we have spent is only and only for understanding this conclusion. For examination, if you remember this conclusion, it is more than sufficient. Whatever we have discussed so far is just story for you now. For now, you just have to remember this particular table. Friends, next a very small change in the return filing chapter. GSTR 1, GSTR 3B and CMP 08 nil can be filed even through an SMS. Friends, it is very important to understand what is meant by nil. Nil doesn't mean nil tax liability. Say for example, for a particular tax period, you are having only exempt outward supplies. Is there any tax liability which you are supposed to pay? The answer is no, it is nil tax liability. But can you call it as nil return? The answer is no, because there is some data which needs to be given. Similarly, friends, let's suppose for a particular tax period, you do not have any outward supplies at all. You only have inward supplies. So now friends, these inward supplies which you are having, there is some input tax credit which you are going to avail. Although there is no output tax liability, still you are going to avail input tax credit by including this data in your periodical return. Can you call it as nil return? Is it a nil tax liability? The answer is yes. There is no outward tax liability. But can you call it as nil return? The answer is no. So friends, nil returns means there shouldn't be any outward supplies including exempt supplies. You shouldn't have any inward supplies, and also you shouldn't have any inward supplies which is liable to be taxed under reverse charge mechanism. So in that case, if it is a nil return, it can also be filed through an SMS. Friends, can you file a nil GSTR 4 through an SMS? The answer is no. It covers only GSTR 1, GSTR 3B and CMP 08. Any returns other than these, even if it is given nil, it cannot be done through an SMS. It has to be done only on the common portal. Friends, the next change is in the exemption. A new exemption entry has been added in the exemption notification. We can classify this in export like services. Friends, as we already discussed in the class, what is meant by export like services? These type of services have just missed the bus. They have not satisfied one or two conditions of export, so therefore it is not getting qualified into an export of services. So in those export like services, there is one entry which is being added: satellite launch services, which is supplied by ISRO, Antrix Corporation Limited or New Space India Limited. These services are exempted. Now friends, why did these services miss the bus? Now friends, let's say you have ISRO who is going to carry out the activity of launching a satellite for a foreign company, and also let's say parallelly it is also going to do for an Indian company. ISRO is having a contract for launching the satellite. Let's suppose an example number 1 for a foreign company, example number 2 for an Indian company. And friends, please understand, the place of supply for satellite launch services happens to be outside India. Now friends, as we all know, for a service to qualify itself as an export of service, it has to satisfy certain conditions. Now friends, what are those conditions? The service provided should be located inside India. Service recipient should be located outside India. The place of supply should be outside India. The amount should be received. The consideration should be received in convertible foreign exchange. And supplier and recipient should not be merely establishment of distinct persons. If these 5 conditions are satisfied, a service can qualify to be called as an export of service, and if it is an export of service, it is a 0 rated supply. Effectively, you need not pay any taxation on it, and if it is a 0 rated supply, friends, there is no need or there is no requirement for an exemption to come, because even otherwise a person is not going to pay any taxes on 0 rated supply. Effectively is not going to pay anything on a 0 rated supply. So now friends, let's take this example where ISRO is having a contract, one with a foreign company, second one with an Indian company to launch a satellite. And friends, please understand, satellite launch services, the place of supply is outside India. So now friends, let's suppose in this example, the service provider for a foreign company and for an Indian company, is he located in India? Yes, in both the cases the service provider is from India. So therefore the first condition is satisfied in both the examples. The second one, the service recipient should be located outside India. Now friends, in this case, the location of service recipient in a foreign company, yes, it is outside India, but as regards as satellite launch services for Indian company is concerned, the location of service recipient is in India. So this condition is not getting satisfied for the Indian company. The next one, the place of supply is outside India. Yes, for both the place of supply is outside India. Consideration received in forex, the foreign company, let's assume it is going to pay the consideration in forex. As regards as the Indian company is concerned, naturally will not pay you in forex, it is going to pay in INR. Are they establishment of distinct persons? The answer is no. Both the places the conditions are satisfied. So now friends, if you look, the satellite launch services which are supplied by ISRO, satellite launch services which are supplied by ISRO, when it is given to a foreign company, all the conditions of export of services are satisfied. It happens to be a zero rated supply. So technically this exemption which is there, and friends, please understand, this exemption doesn't tell you that if these services are given to a foreign company or these services are given to Indian company, it is exempted. That the recipient of service, the location of the recipient of service is silent in this exemption. Friends, this exemption simply tells you the services should be satellite launch. The service provider should be either of these three, ISRO, Antrix or New Space India Limited. The service recipient could be anyone. It could be either a foreign company or it could be an Indian company. So now friends, if the service recipient happens to be a foreign company, if the service recipient happens to be a foreign company, it becomes a zero rated supply, assuming the consideration is going to come in forex. When it becomes a zero rated supply, technically speaking, effectively no taxes are going to be paid for zero rated supplies. So therefore this exemption is not of much use. So friends, for whom is this exemption of use? This exemption is of use when these services are given to an Indian company. When these services are given to an Indian company, here the conditions of export of services are not getting satisfied. They have just missed the bus because the location of recipient is not outside India, it is in India, and also the amount is not received in forex. So therefore friends, it doesn't qualify itself to be an export of service. Resultantly, it is not a zero rated supply. Therefore friends, some taxes would have been paid but for this exemption. So now this exemption comes, these services, even if it is given to an Indian company, these services, if it is given to an Indian company, it is going to be exempted. Friends, please understand, I repeatedly tell you, as regards as the satellite launch services are concerned, it is silent who is the recipient of service. For examination, what you need to remember is satellite launch services given by ISRO, Antrix and New Space India Limited is exempted. Now the reason why it is being exempted is what we have discussed so far. If it is given to a foreign company, it is zero rated. Effectively, exemption is not required. So this exemption would be of use only when these services are provided to an Indian company. Friends, so we have completed the amendment lectures. I hope you have enjoyed them. If you have any queries, you can write to me over here. Friends, the amendments were very few, but these are like jackpots. You can expect a direct question. So friends, I wish you all the very best. Please do come out with flying colors. All the very best.
Subscribe to LearnCap and hit the bell icon to get notified.